experience is almost primarily, or almost all, been in the, it's primarily in almost all, but in the healthcare arena, working across different types of organizations in the industry, which include providers like health systems, provider-owned payers like Medicaid entities, with some manufacturers and behavioral health providers. And really what I've done is assisted directors and higher-level VPs to implement their strategic initiatives and build things like regulatory compliance programs or value-based programs that will help systematize their risk or population health approach. So that's really been in the last few years where I focused as sort of an operations and project manager.
Can you talk a little bit about who the key stakeholders were for those projects, or think of a specific example maybe?
Sure. So I think a good example would be a policy project. Then in one instance, then I was supporting a team of executives by leading a team of staff and management to publish just about 40 policies and procedures in a very short amount of time. The key stakeholders in that project were many because the policies had a system approach. So the key stakeholders were the executives who were the administrators for the policies and oversaw their implementation and were responsible for knowing their contents. The stakeholders were also the employees to which they applied, which included physicians and nurse practitioners, other advanced providers, and employees involved in physician revenue cycle. So the stakeholders were also those who had to follow the policies. And the key stakeholders in those policies as well were the regulators and governance and overseers like governance who would audit or monitor the organizations on their adherence to them. So the stakeholders in this particular project, it was an interesting project because policies span the organization and are some of the first things that an auditor looks to see. So they went from very internal and staff level to governmental and outside. It was twofold. And the system, in this case, the client was a health system, had undergone gap analysis in the revenue cycle and had decided to streamline it by combining more than one department and integrating them under one executive, so that a lot of the disparate departments that were in branches of the company, across the board, before now reported up to a single executive, and were expected to be a lot more cyclic and know each other's processes and systems. So there is a lot of unfamiliarity there, and process gaps in that cycle came to be known and were more apparent. So with that, then these policies, and the purpose of the project was really to take a new organizational structure and make it work. And at the same time, then for high stakes, compliance projects, and for areas of high compliance risk, then the goals were or the need for the project came from, the needs came from our requirements to demonstrate that we understand these complex concepts and that we are compliant with the requirements that drive them.
The time frame were you under to accomplish this?
It was accelerated. So to put all these in place, we didn't know how many there would be. And so it was sort of an open invite at first. The scope of it was hard to define until we really came up with that gap analysis and made a list of stakeholders and operators and figured out what needed to be documented. So once we did that, then we could set a feasible time frame. But all of that was driven by a deadline that was just about 4 to 5 months out. And
Okay.
so, as we figured out what the scope of it would be and how long the list of work products actually was going to be, then that final 4 to 5 month deadline didn't change.